Need to play this audio. I have not actually heard this audio. That's fair warning to my board op. It's a press conference, so I assume there's nothing in it. It's, what is it, Pramila Jayapal? She's the leader of the progressives in the United States House of Representatives. She and a number of Democrats have filed legislation. Well, just listen to them.
Today to say enough. Our Dignity for Detained Immigrants Act has a remarkable, unprecedented 123 original co-sponsors. Before we've even introduced it, 123 co-sponsors, and it overhauls the detention system. It drastically scales back the use of detention. It ensures that every single immigrant who is in detention has their human and civil rights protected. Our bill also phases out the use of private for-profit detention centers. It prohibits the detention of children and families and makes it harder to detain primary caregivers and vulnerable people like pregnant women or seniors or workers who are whistleblowing on unscrupulous employers. It requires DHS to allow members of Congress to do our jobs and conduct those unannounced inspections that hold these facilities accountable. As an immigrant myself,
that's Pramila Jayapal, the leader of the progressives, Democrat from Washington State. 124 Democrats have signed on to legislation that will prohibit detaining illegal immigrants at the border. You'll have to let them into the country. Will require the United States government pay for lawyers to fight deportation. And will essentially abolish ICE internally. I wish you guys could see the look on Kobe's face right now. Yes. Yes. Your profanity will not bleed through the microphone. Y'all, this is nuts. This is they want to prevent the detention of people at the border. You're not allowed to detain people. You have to let them into the country if they cross illegally. You got to let them in, and you got to provide lawyers and make sure their benefits are not denied. Now, remember last year we were told that there were no benefits given to illegal aliens, and now we're being told, oh, well, of course we give them to illegal aliens. You racist, why are you opposed? Ilhan Omar is speaking out on CNN about the Somalis in Minnesota.
Can you shed any light on why the fraud got so out of control in Minnesota?
I think what happened is that, when you have these kind of new programs that are designed to help people, you're oftentimes relying on third parties to be able to facilitate. And I just think that a lot of the COVID programs that were set up, they were set up so quickly that a lot of the guardrails did not get created.
A lot of the guardrails, she says, well, a lot of the guardrails. You don't need guardrails for honest people. You don't need guardrails for the honest people. We needed guardrails. It was the Somali community. Y'all, it wasn't the Swedish American ice fishers of Minnesota that were engaged in this fraud, eh? It was the Somali immigrants. Here's a little more Ilhan Omar.
Well, it's certainly not. We know that Somalis, over 90% of them are citizens of this country, majority of them having born in the United States. And we know that if you are a criminal, you already have deportation orders, and there is an easy way for them to do that instead of creating this sort of fear where they are having raids. And today we saw them stopping citizens, and people were proving their citizenship by showing their passports. And so we know it has really nothing to do about keeping a community safe. It's actually terrorizing a community and creating fear.
Actually, see, here's what happened. The Biden administration sent even more Somali refugees to the Somali community in Minnesota, and many of them have overstayed their visas now. And the Somali community in Minnesota is actually protecting them from deportation and hiding them as if they're hiding Jews from the Nazis. They really do believe that ICE are the Nazis. They're not supposed to stay in the community. They're not supposed to be here. They're illegal aliens now. And you've got a Somali police officer. Listen to this. This is a Somali police officer in Minnesota confirming that he will be protecting the Somalis from ICE.
ICE-kana laga ilaalinayaa maasha Allah abowe ICE mana laga ilaalinaa safety-geena ma la sugayaa maasha Allah waa u jeedaan saaxiibayaal Carmel hadda waa shidan tahay.
What she's asking is, brother, aren't you going to protect us from ICE? And he nods to her. Yes, I'm going to protect you from ICE. They're not speaking English. The caption, they're police. Brother, aren't you going to protect us from ICE? And he turns and looks at her and he nods as he's talking on his phone. You have Representative Delia Ramirez talking about Department of Homeland Security. Listen.
And his willingness to shamelessly use DHS as his own force of terror is only making visible what so many communities have already known to be true. That terrorizing is the point. Violating our rights is the point. That fear is the point. You see, creating a public enemy is meant to convince Americans to sacrifice our freedoms for the promise of security. But let me be very clear. Nothing that the Department of Homeland Security is doing is making us any safer. In this moment, under Secretary Noem, under Donald Trump, DHS has become the single greatest threat to public safety.
You got this. This is the talking point. Terrorizing is the point. They've clearly hit on this, that terrorizing is the point. This is Rob Bonta, the California Attorney General. They've decided to set up a website where you will be able to file reports on ICE activity in order to protect illegal immigrants. You'll be able to file all the relevant information of where ICE is on this website.
We are here to announce a new tool that we are launching today to protect the rights, the safety, the dignity of all Californians throughout the state during a time of profound uncertainty and a time of profound fear. Today, we're launching an online portal where members of the public can report potentially unlawful conduct by federal agents operating in our state. And we encourage Californians who have concerns about the law being broken, a federal officer breaking the law, to report to us so we can assess the information. Over the last 10 months, we've seen troubling reports coming from communities across California, including unmarked military-style vehicles and individuals detained in ways that resemble abductions and kidnappings more than lawful arrests. Californians are scared, and they're right.
You got that? Y'all, I got a side note for those of you on the right here. First of all, there's a difference between the Border Patrol and ICE. ICE tends not to be the ones who are running all over the place grabbing people. ICE tends to know their target in advance. ICE is the one that's blamed, but often it's Border Patrol that does the more cavalier mass roundups. I need to say this on the record. Don't get mad at me for saying it because deep down it's true. Every time you arrest a citizen in the mix-up, it provides ammunition for the left to undermine the credibility of what's happening. So ICE and Border Patrol and Homeland Security need to dot all the I's and cross all the T's in advance. They got to do this. And they actually do need to focus on the bad guys first. Increasingly, among a lot of Trump supporters, they can't distinguish between the guy who hasn't broken the law once he crossed the border and the guy who actually is a gang member. Deport them all. There's a valid argument for saying that, but I've got to tell you, when Trump came in, he said he was going to focus on the worst of the worst, and a lot of Hispanic voters voted for Trump because of that. If you can't distinguish between the grandmother who's been here for decades illegally and the gangbanger who's terrorizing that grandmother's neighborhood who's illegal, you have a problem with the voters in the same way the Democrats have a problem because the Democrats don't want any ICE. Republican voters have a problem in that they're being overly aggressive with ICE. An American citizen is not required in the United States to have to walk around with their passport to prove their citizenship. And if that is the case in areas of this country, and I'm not saying it is, but that's the allegation, and if it is, that's wrong. You've got to understand the nuanced case here. Don't be mad at me for telling you the truth, because the truth is there will be a voter reaction against the right if they overplay their hand and are too aggressive. We want all the illegal aliens detained, but you got to start with the criminals first and then build the case for the rest of them. On the left, though, they've doubled down on the opposite extreme. It's both sides are extreme. On the right, it's every single person who is here illegally. There's no differentiation between them. They're all lawbreakers. Get them all out now. There's no priority between the gangbangers and the drug dealers and the grandmothers and the workers who are working for the landscape company. They're all the same. Get rid of all of them. That may be true to you, but to a lot of people it's not, and there will be backlash. In the same way on the left, it is we have to protect every illegal immigrant. They're all God's people. They're all welcome here. They should all be given welfare. No, that's wrong too. That is the bad position. And if you're forcing Americans to default, they're going to default on the far right side of deport them all. Why are we giving illegal aliens welfare benefits in this country? Why? We should not be. Minnesota's lieutenant governor is speaking out about this.
Well, what I can tell you is they're certainly not letting us know their plans. But what we do see is that they're coming in quickly, scooping people up. We're hearing reports of that from folks on the ground. But really what this is all about is striking fear into the hearts of Minnesotans. I just find it completely abhorrent, the comments that came from President Trump out of the cabinet meeting the other day and just yesterday, just the vile, dehumanizing things that he had to say about our neighbors, about Minnesotans. And listen, we've heard Donald Trump say a lot of nasty, terrible things over the years, but this felt different. And it feels like a real attack on the state of Minnesota as a whole and people who make Minnesota, Minnesota.
You got that? This is all completely abhorrent. The president's abhorrent. They're just striking fear. This is the talking point from the left, by the way, that they're just striking fear. No, they're not actually striking fear. They're deporting people who shouldn't be here. Y'all, if the Republicans play this right, I understand some of you listening right now, you're going to send me hate mail and say, nope, they're all the same, round them all up. If you can't distinguish between the gangbangers and the drug dealers and Julio who cuts somebody's grass down the street from you and leaves you alone, you're going to provoke a voter backlash. You can win this fight if you just show a little bit of restraint and no racism. Because if you come out on this, remember that the goal right now to win elections is to just not look insane. When the Democrats are coming out with legislation, 124 Democrats saying, we want illegal aliens not detained, welcome to this country, given welfare benefits and lawyers so they can stay here, versus we're rounding up the gangbangers and the drug dealers. We'll figure out what to do with the rest of them once we get the drug dealers and the gangbangers gone. You come across looking reasonable. When you say, screw them all, we're rounding them up and we're shipping off to some country, we don't care where, maybe the desert in Africa, you look like a racist to a lot of people. You may not be, but you look that way, and you look crazy too. The American people are trying to find candidates who look reasonable, and it is a reasonable position to say there are a lot of illegal aliens here we can deal with later. Let's start with the gangbangers and the drug dealers and the violent ones, and then we'll move on and worry about the others later. And I think that's a winning position for the GOP right now. But you got to be able to nuance, and people don't want to nuance. The number of people who will yell at me for making the case that you just can't go in and round them all up because you come across looking bad, to a lot of Hispanic voters and non-white voters who have been moving in your direction. They want the gangbangers gone. They want the drug dealers gone. They want the bad guys gone. And to a degree, they even want a lot of the other illegal aliens gone who came over during the Biden administration. But they're not concerned about the guy who's been here 30 years. And if you're not willing to make that distinguishing feature, you're going to cede some ground that could be yours to actually get these people out of the country. You've got the opportunity to distinguish yourself from the left that's gone just absolutely insane and can't nuance anything. Just nuance a little bit. The left can't. You win the election. You win the argument. You preserve the power to be able to do these things.